joining me on TMI Tuesday, and we're looking at a very sensitive issue that concerns the 2019 elections, the electoral polls, looking at the aspect of raising confidence in the electoral process. And joining me on this very sensitive discussion is one-time Secretary General to the NBA Benin branch and also member of the National Executive Committee of the NBA, David Maduko. Many thanks for coming, David.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning, viewers.
Well, we've been following trends about the issue that surrounds the suspended CJ and Walter Onoren, and some say it as a coup against democracy. Do you think that is right to say?
That's precisely what it is. It beats my imagination the way the issues contained have been politicized, and you know, there's a lot of drama about it. To me, I see the issue of the alleged infraction by the erstwhile the embattled CJN, Justice Walter Onoren, as an issue on one side, and the wrong process used to remove him as an issue on another side. And you see, one thing that we Nigerians love doing, with due respect, Philip, your constituency, the press, we love to overbloat issues. What is actually on ground is that let's take a kind of scenario.
Yeah.
You have a car conveying some armed robbers by a security van, and one of the armed robbers happens to escape from that security van. Now, the security people are going around hitting people, killing people. You kill like 5 persons in order to apprehend that one armed robber that escaped. You see the process. You are killing 5 people to get 1 person. What am I saying? What am I trying to paint here? When you circumvent the rule of law, no matter what you are trying to achieve, that's the greatest evil you can commit.
Okay, but some also say that if you look at it critically, the aspect of not declaring assets, is that not also
who has said that?
Should be.
Who has judged that? Who has convicted that? Who has not made that a judgment? Is it in the court of public opinion? The Chief Justice of the Federation? The whole process. This is that's the gamut of all what we are talking about. The whole process is supposed to follow a procedure. For crying out loud, people cannot just come to this studio and walk in straight here and say they want to sit down here for an. There's a procedure. You come through the gate, you are allowed, you wait, you are confirmed that you have an appointment before you go for the appointment. You don't just go straight. That's what we are saying. That look, no matter what you are trying to achieve, that is why you have the criminal principle that everybody is presumed innocent until proven guilty. Even if you caught the armed robber there killing the person, you take him to court. And what happens? He's put through the whole gamut. The plea is reads the plea if he's guilty or not, and the whole trial come here. You present the evidence, and then the court, looks at the evidence and the facts and distinguishes everything, and then gives a ruling or a judgment on it.
Okay, but do you see this as affecting the electoral process?
Seriously, the timing is wrong, very, very wrong. The manner, the swift manner in which the federal government has chosen to follow this case is very suspect. The swift manner they have, illegally sworn in an acting Chief Justice is questionable.
Okay.
Because now, even though we say Justice Walter Onoren has some questions to answer, one would have ordinarily expected that any other justice following the hierarchy in that ranking would let the federal government, when they tell you they want to appoint you, you have notified you. There is something called integrity, that you can remind the government that no, this process you used was wrong. Make it right, then I will accept. But when you rush to accept, you are seen in the eyes as a necessary corollary to the achieving of that purpose.
Okay. Okay. We're looking at
I mean, that's what it seems.
Okay, we're looking at that, and there is this impression raised by some in an argument that why the suspended CGN was about inaugurating the judges for the election tribunal cases.
Yes.
You know, to try the 2019 general elections.
Yes.
That came up. Now, do you see the possibility that probably the suspended CGN was the headache of the present administration?
That is what it will seem. That is what it will obviously seem, because now the man was at the verge of doing that. Yes, without prejudice to the fact that he was already at the CCT answering some criminal charges. Now he was at the verge of doing that. You hurriedly, suspended him based on an order from CCT, and that order itself is even suspect. We don't want to go into all that, because we had the proceedings from court, and what emanated in that order seems to be different from what happened in court. So that itself is another issue on its own. But now, let's proceed from there. The commander-in-chief now acted based on that order and suspended the man. And the man was supposed to inaugurate this justice for the tribunal.
Yes.
That day. And you suspended the man. Now, you swore in the next in command, Tanko Mohammed, who went ahead to swear in the panel. Now, the funny thing is this. The list of judges there that were appointed, so many are late. So many
of the judges appointed.
Yes, are retired. Yes,
that were sworn in.
That were sworn in. At least by the new CGN, Tanko Mohammed. At least quite a handful from Edo State have retired, and one or two are late. So I can't speak authoritatively for other states.
So with all this, it means that feasibility study was not properly carried out,
or the list was already handed over for somebody to swear in. So it's suggestive of so many things, because even the swift manner in which they were sworn in. I mean, if, for instance, I come and I'm sworn in an office to carry out some functions, I have to do a little bit of due diligence, a little bit of checking here and there. I'm given a list. I have to check, okay, or make phone calls, or at least you just go and swear in people. Some are not existing in the list. The act itself is suspect.
Okay, we're looking at the proposed meeting that the NJC is having today.
Yes.
And surprisingly, like reports have it, is that even the NJC said that the suspended CGN Walter Onoge will not be allowed to preside over this meeting.
Yes.
Neither will the current CGN Tanko Mohammed.
Yes.
What is that coming up in the NJC? Does the NJC
is
it necessary to do that?
Yes, the NJC meeting today is a very welcome development, and that even puts to pay the rumors we've been hearing that the embattled CGN Justice Walter Onoge postponed the earlier meeting of the NJC. So the NJC meeting today and the talk in the air that he postponed it is another issue that one is surprised, because there are so many things. We have not heard from the man. Justice Walter Onoge has not sat down on TV like this to speak to Nigeria. We've not heard from him. He has not been given the opportunity. We only hear things flowing from the government, federal government side.
Is it that he has not been given the opportunity, or he is not interested in speaking out?
Sir, we cannot say he's not interested in speaking out, because the man is meant to be on trial. Now, if you allow, in the first instance, if the right things had been done, the law stipulates the procedure to follow in such a circumstance. It's in the Constitution. Now, you didn't follow that procedure. Even in the whole fireworks, in the whole game, the Court of Appeal gave an order that the CCT, no, stop what you are doing. You have no jurisdiction to do what you are doing. Wait, let us finish hearing the substantive matter here in the Court of Appeal. Then we'll decide one way or the other if you can go on or not. The Court of Appeal and the CCT are not on the same level in any way in the hierarchy of courts in Nigeria. appeals lie from city to Court of Appeal. So they are not in the same level. So the city is bound by whatever orders made by the Court of Appeal. They went ahead to overlook that order.
Okay, thank you.
So you see that a lot of, you see, two wrongs do not ever make a right. A lot of wrong things have been done. A lot of rush job that has painted the whole picture. The whole thing is suspect. Even if you have good intentions, the method, the manner in which it has been executed is bereft of suspicious tendencies and motives.
Okay, I have to pause you there in case you're just watching. As this morning on ITV Tuesday edition, and I've been having a chat with the former Secretary General to NBA Benin Branch and also a member of the National Executive Committee of NBA. We're on the aspect of the issues that surround the 2019 elections and how to ensure that we raise confidence in the electoral process. And the suspended CGN issue is really emanating from all of this as a way of looking at raising confidence in the present government and also in the electoral process. But we are standing frontiers of this discussion after this timeout. Don't you go away.
TMI, every opinion counts.
While following the trend over this issue about raising confidence in the electoral process, this is the crux of today's discussion. And we're looking at a different dimension to this, how the case of the suspended CGN issues emanating from all of that led to the suspension could adversely affect the electoral process in 2019. Well, taking a different thought from what the custodian of the law I have with me in the studio, David Maduko, has been on, is a political analyst, and he's known as Neville of Bakedo. Many thanks for coming, Neville.
Thank you for having me. Good morning, viewers at home.
Well, you've been following this, and I remember vividly some time back we had this discussion, but now it's in a different perspective, how the suspended CGN water nugget could have an adverse effect on the electoral process coming up this year. Now, some see this as a coup against democracy and judiciary. You feel said?
Well, this issue of Onoge is an emotive and very sensitive issue. When you look at it from the point of view of North-South dichotomy or Northern Nigeria, Southern Nigeria politics, some persons have argued that top government positions are being manned by people from the North, and the major position that is being occupied by a certain outside of office of vice president is that of the Chief Justice of Nigeria, and that some people are arguing that it's on the basis of northern domination of the Nigeria political system, as the case may be. But I have to view the matter very differently. First and foremost, that the Chief Justice of Nigeria is suspended does not mean that he's not still the Chief Justice of Nigeria. Somebody is just there in active capacity, and the suspension is not did not just come from the blues. It's as a result of a constitutional misconduct, an offense that is traceable to the Constitution, which may likely lead to constitutional crisis if the matter is not handled very well. But because there's no leadership vacuum, as the man has been asked to step aside and somebody is acting,
okay,
that does not affect the election.
Okay, but while you continue, but let me quickly guide you on this. You may mention the fact that as long as there's no vacuum,
yes,
and that he still remains the CJN.
Yes.
Now, don't you see a situation where a due process wasn't followed as also another challenge?
Yes, I admit.
Irrespective of the fact that you stated that there was an offense,
yes,
committed.
Alleged offense.
What about the aspect of the due process?
You know, I'm not a lawyer, but because of the crisis I've had from 2011 to 2018, I've forced myself to learn a lot about law. And so when people use terminologies in law or that related to law that I'm conversant with, I always smile. I smile because I feel that I have a response, very positive, legal-based response. And talking about the issue of alleged offense. In the case of Olowoyo versus the state 2014, as decided by the Supreme Court, and in other plethora of cases, the Apex Court made it very clear that there are 3 ways the guilt of an accused person, now defendant, based on the amendment of based on the Criminal Justice Act. It says that there are 3 ways you can establish the guilt of an accused person or a defendant. 1, confessional statement of that person. Number 2, eyewitness evidence. Number 3, circumstantial evidence. The suspended Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Walter Onogan, he grew up in Ghana and schooled in Ghana. He is aware of the way and manner the Ghanaian state, the affairs of the Ghanaian state is being conducted, especially from the period of Jerry Rawlings. And I expected that as a judge in Nigeria, he should have come with him from Ghana those ideas. Now, he made himself available for interrogation by the Code of Conduct Bureau. And in that process, he made a statement, a written statement, a confessional statement, which is in pari material with the provisions of the Criminal Justice Act and the conduct of a public officer, contrary to the oath that is sworn to uphold as Chief Justice of Nigeria. Now, whether procedure is followed or not, is an issue that I said just now.
You said it made
can lead, yes, that can I'm coming to the issue of the statement. Yes, that can lead to a constitutional crisis in Nigeria. And both parties are trying to make sure that that does not happen. When I say both parties, I'm talking of the federal government and himself, the Chief Justice of Nigeria, now on suspension.
Back to the written statement.
The written statement. He admitted in his statement that he made a mistake, that he forgot to declare certain part of his assets. Now the question is, in criminal cases such as this, are such mistake pardonable? You can find the answer in section 292, subsection 1 and 2 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended, where the president is empowered to begin a process of the removal of the Chief Justice of Nigeria in conjunction with the Senate by 2/3 majority, on the ground that 1, the Chief Justice of Nigeria is having infirmity of the mind and of the body. Point number 1. Number 2, he is guilty of misconduct. Point number 3, if he has contravened the Code of Conduct. Those are the 3 reasons why a sitting Chief Justice of Nigeria can be removed by the president and the legislature, the executive and the legislature, on the basis of the fact that there is glaring evidence.
Okay, but while we look at that, some are also of this argument that why now? Why bringing up this now? Shouldn't it have been brought earlier than this?
Yes.
That tends to give an impression that there's an ulterior motive.
No, when you say ulterior motive, I will come to the issue of ulterior, but let me quickly anchor my argument. Number 1, if the Chief Justice of Nigeria is to be removed from office on the basis of infirmity of the mind, maybe he has schizophrenic disease, or infirmity of the body, maybe he suffered a Parkinson's disease, it is not the National Judicial Council that will say that the Chief Justice of Nigeria is suffering infirmity. It is a doctor, if there's a Surgeon General of the country, that will say so.
All right, drive your point. So
yes. Now, if the Chief Justice of Nigeria is involved in misconduct, it is the Code of Conduct Ethics, Code of Conduct for Judicial Officers, where the issue of National Judicial Council power to discipline a member of the bench, such as the Chief Justice of Nigeria, will handle.
So you are saying it's not the office of the NJC?
Yes, the issue of contravention of the Code of Conduct does not fall within the powers of the National Judicial Council to handle.
Okay, let me pause you there. Why the custodian reacts to that?
Okay.
First and foremost, I must admire my good friend. Anybody that wants to put on the garb and garment of another profession must seriously. He has done very well. amazed at his quotation of cases and all that. But having said that, I think...
and he also made us to understand that
yes.
at least he has made a written statement.
Yes, yes,
because,
yes. Yeah, I will address that.
Just like what you said,
I will address those issues.
He is not allowed to speak.
I will address those
but
issues.
The written statement has been made.
Yes, with due respect. With all due respect to my very good friend and brother here, I think he has misled himself and misunderstood the issues at stake, yes. Though, like I said, I must commend him as a layman, having grasp of the law this way.
Okay.
You see, he mentioned Section 292. And in mentioning it, he mentioned two-thirds majority of the National Assembly as a prerequisite condition. You see, there are some preconditions in carrying out some acts. And when those conditions are not there, those acts are not valid. They are nullified ab initio. So he himself, I'm glad that he himself that quoted that section also quoted what the section entails.
All right.
That you must have two-thirds majority of National Senate, as it were.
Okay.
Now he made that is not even as important as the Code of Conduct rule which he mentioned. That is the crux of the matter, that the embattled Justice Walter Onoge made a statement. And to the layman, that statement may seem indictive.
As it is.
As it is. But I will tell you here and now that it is not, that the statement is actually a defense. And I will explain why.
Why?
So thank you. Now the reason is Section 3 of the Act of the CCB is the one that provides for list the functions of the CCB and those offenses refer to the persons who commit a breach and act. But it has a proviso.
Okay.
And I read the proviso to you. After stating all those provisions, it now says, provided that where the person concerned makes a written admission, please get this very clearly, and I want him to also get it clearly, makes a written admission of such breach or non-compliance, no reference to the tribunal shall be necessary.
No reference to the tribunal
shall be necessary.
That's the proviso.
That's the proviso. So now, people, you see, because people need to be well educated. When we are in a forum like this, we don't just come and quote a part of it and leave the other ones hanging and let people, just come with verbal gymnastics. Explain it to people the way it is. That's why we say you should have let the trial through the CCD go through the full hog.
Okay.
Suspending it is suspect. Now, with this proviso, what does this proviso do? It makes that written admission a defense. Because what they are saying is that you ought not to proceed to the tribunal. Once the man has said, you told the man, sorry, forgive me if you may permit me to use local language. You thief? Yes, I thief. He said it dispenses with it.
It dispenses with
it. Yes, it's only when the man is...
It's not held...
Yes, then you can now go through other procedures of... And come, sir, let me make this is very important. It is only when the man is in denial. He's saying, no, I do not have those accounts. Those accounts do not exist. That is when you proceed. This thing is the law. And there's a process and procedure. That's why we say, when you subject, you see, when you're in a hurry to do something, you make a lot of mistakes. Just because you want to taint somebody in bad light, the law provides that this is high. It's just like when you come to court. They tell you, are you guilty or you are not guilty? So the law has provided here that if the person concerned, he has a written admission, which is in pari material with what my good friend has said, that the man has a written statement. Yes. That he's saying, I admit these things. Then you go to the next procedure of dealing with that. You do not need to refer to the tribunal. But most people that speak on these things do not mention this proviso.
Okay. While we allow you to react to that, let's also pave way for the present decision by the Senate to file a case on the powers that constitute the suspension of the CJN. But go ahead and talk about the reactions in respect of what he just said.
You see, because this is a television station and it's a worldwide television station, the whole world is watching. And some of the cases that we are making reference to, or some of the documents that we are making reference to, people at home or those who are watching, They have access to this document.
They can Google it.
Yes, I was given an analysis of the 3 ways you can remove a Chief Justice of Nigeria before his age of retirement, which is 70 years, as specified by the Constitution. I said that number 1 way to remove it is by maybe is affirmed, either in the body or in the mind.
You said so.
And it is not the National Judicial Council that will establish that. It is the medical professional people that will establish that.
You said so.
And I said that if in line with the provisions of the code of conduct for judicial officers, when a judge commits an offense that has to do with is a performance of his judicial functions, it is the National Judicial Council that is going to investigate him and put a machinery in place. And after the investigation, they will write to the president. Before the president will now write to the National Assembly, which is the Senate in question.
Okay, but is that not related to what we have here?
Yes, it's not related to what we have here. The issue of contravention, because I said there are 3 ways you can remove a Chief Justice of Nigeria as provided for by the Constitution, the President of the Court of Appeal. The list is long like that. Now, the next aspect of it is contravention of the Code of Conduct.
Yes.
If a man says,
which is the case.
Yeah, which is the case at hand. The man has contravened the Code of Conduct, and he has admitted that he has contravened the Code of Conduct. The first thing for the presidency, for Justice Onoge to have done was to have excused himself as the chairman of the National Judicial Council, assuming without considering that the contravention of the Code of Conduct can be investigated by the National Judicial Council. Assume it can be investigated by the National Judicial Council. The man is the chairman. He cannot be a judge in his own case. He would have elected to step aside for the next senior judge to constitute a panel to put him on trial, even though they don't have the power to do so. Then put him on trial and make recommendation to the president. The president will now in turn now write to the Senate to say, look at allegation against the president, look at his reaction, and this is what we are advising that you do. Now, I said earlier deliberately that both parties, the way they are handling the matter, is likely to lead to a constitutional crisis. I said so, even though I'm not a lawyer. Now, the National Judicial Council chairman and suspended Chief Justice of Nigeria, he put a machinery in place, number 1, to go to court and stop the court and stop the criminal Code of Conduct Tribunal from trying him, because according to him, he specified that he lacks jurisdiction. That court lacks jurisdiction to try him. This same Justice Walter Onoge, between 2012 and 2016, the Supreme Court of Nigeria decided cases that have to do with asset declaration. Specifically in 2013, he delivered a judgment. Justice Walter Onoge, who was the lead judge who delivered a judgment in a case that have to do with asset declaration concerning Kano State Government, INEC, and one other person like that. He said in that judgment categorically that it is only the Code of Conduct Tribunal, to the exclusion of any other court, that has the power to try cases that have to do with asset declaration. In that judgment,
to the exclusion of any
other court. Now, there are other judgments. I have mentioned one, and there's 22 others.
All right, we may not have the time to
yes.
go through all of this.
What I'm trying to say is that the Constitution is a supreme document. Nobody, whether Onoge or the presidency, should contravene or should disregard the Constitution, because in the case of Olufeagba and Abdul Karim, I'm referring to the case of Ilori 49, and in other plethora of cases, including the cases of UNTH and Runoli. The apex court, the Supreme Court, the same Supreme Court that we are talking about, said that no person, no organization, nobody has the power to disregard, either through act of omission or commission, the provisions of an act and the provisions of the Constitution.
Okay.
So, having that at the back of our mind, the embattled Chief Justice of Nigeria, in an attempt to prevent his trial by the National Judicial Council, assuming it is the body that have the power to try contravention of Code of Conduct, he decided to say that National Judicial Council's meetings are prohibited sine die. That is to say, indefinitely, National Judicial Council will not meet, and is the chairman. No other person has been appointed to try his case because he cannot try himself.
So
it's something a machinery place to
you see that as a wrong step.
Justice. Yes.
You see that as a wrong step.
Yes.
Okay.
Now we come to the issue of the presidency.
Yes, you do that quickly.
Yes, if the presidency they have the feeling that this man has committed an offense, as admitted, presidency should not be in a haste to put this man on trial according to the provision of the law. Assuming the presidency has not followed the law now.
Okay.
So that is my candid advice. And if a matter is before a higher court in terms of argument of either jurisdiction or the issues that constitute the matter before the court.
Okay. Now, this case
to avoid the sub judice and contempt of court.
Yes.
Both parties should maintain status quo.
This issue was supposed to be deliberated on if there was to be plenary today in the red chambers, but reports also have it that they've already the Senate leadership has filed a case on that matter to constitute who has the powers to suspend the CJN, or if the president usurped the powers of the Senate, and that case has been filed in the Supreme Court, and there's an extent we can go on that aspect. And so as a result of that, they adjourned the meeting like it was adjourned till February 19. Look at the date, February 19.
Yeah.
It's a calculated attempt.
No, it's not. They have a right to do so. They have every right to do so. Now, let me just quickly come in here.
But what do you see as the fallout, as the adverse effect this may have?
What may have?
Yes, in terms of the adjournment till February 19, because it's expected that at least it's going to take a long time.
There's a lot of bubbles
because
now.
We heard that
there's a lot of bubbles even in the Supreme Court.
Yes, okay.
So the Supreme Court itself needs time for the bubbles to settle.
Okay.
And it will not be an overnight thing.
Okay. So
I mean, it's February 19 is reasonable. It's reasonable under the circumstances. But having said that, my very good friend and brother here, let me just quickly, he said something about, you see, this whole thing is not about talking about decided cases, precedent and all that. What we are simply saying, look, I am not really happy that the Chief Justice will have so much money in his account.
Okay, now we take a short break, please. This is This Morning on ITV, and we're looking at this issue after this timeout. Please stay tuned.
TMI, every opinion counts.
While we had the break, we had the opportunity to be joined by the Director of Africa Emancipation Movement for Africa, and also the President of Association for Education and Development, Osagie Godsent Erunse. Many thanks for coming.
Good morning, my pleasure again. Thank you. Thank you.
Before I come to you, Osagie, David Maduko had the floor. Can you take from what you started?
Yes, thank you. I was just trying to lay the point that this whole thing is not about, my good friend here had been making reference to past cases, obita related to the present case in hand. While all those may be correct, but you see, I think most of the time we miss the point. I as an individual, as a legal practitioner, I am surprised at the number of accounts being held by the embattled chief former the embattled
suspended
CJN. I'm amazed that, why can this man have so much accounts? So if you're asking me of my personal view,
you are amazed.
I may be of the same view with many people.
Okay.
Why this man this money, and but that does not derogate from the fact that we must argue things to follow the right procedure.
Yes, the rule of law.
That's the rule of law. That's our concern. It's not about, you see, some people have an agenda about this thing. That's not our own. Our own is saying, follow what the law says. Follow the procedure laid down, because the moment you jettison the rule of law for any reason, I gave an example before he came in. He didn't have the ability to listen to that example. I said you cannot be chasing one alleged armed robber and go and kill 17 people on the way.
In the course of chasing
one. You have taken 7 lives just for one. It doesn't make sense.
But even the Book of Wisdom also said that if you have value for your sheep, you leave the 99
law and
go for one that is
sir.
lost.
Excuse me, sir. Law and morality are different.
Okay.
They are two different things. They don't touch.
Okay.
So now, what we are saying is this: the federal government simply follow laid down procedure. Now, let me quickly talk about the postponement. He talked about the NJC meeting. We have heard a lot of things on air. We have not had the opportunity to see this man sit down. Onoge sit down and talk to Nigeria. No. So far, throughout this whole imbroglio, it's only what is fed to us that we ruminate about. And one of those such things fed to us is that he postponed NJC meeting. The man has not had time to even reply to that. And everybody is talking about, okay, now let's assume that he did so.
As
let us assume.
Is it possible?
Let us, excuse me, sir. Let us assume he did so. The NJC is meeting, if I'm not mistaken,
yes,
today.
Yes.
The same man you said suspended his senior die, the NJC is meeting today. And what is more?
Well, let's see how that pans out.
Yes, what is more?
Let's see how that pans out.
What is more, sir? What is more, sir? If you cannot say the man ought to have stepped aside or withdrawn, that is not the proper forum. Even judges that handle cases in court, if they know that they are not disqualified in one way or the other, they won't come out to New Benin Market or GRA in Benin to say, I'm no longer in that case. They will wait till the case, that court sits. And in the sitting of that case, they will disqualify themselves or say, you have to transfer this case to Chief Judge.
Okay, thank
you.
Now,
the agency, one of my point is this, sir. The agency must meet for the man to say, okay, I am disqualifying myself. You have not given, you see, that's why I say, we are too much in a hurry to crucify this man. We don't allow things to follow the right process and procedure. It is in that agency meeting. That is the proper occasion for him to say, I'm disqualifying myself due to this.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
So you don't give him that chance, and you are here persecuting him and crucifying him.
Thank you. Well, Osage Gossent, what's your take on all of this?
I may not be a lawyer, but there's something I know about the law. If you were to catch an armed robber, even with harm, murdering someone, according to the law, he's still a suspect.
Yes, innocent.
Until the law declares him guilty. See, I don't think there's a lot of complication in this case. Because for me, we need a rescue mission. You know, I see it, you cannot rule out the fact that there's a lot of political undertone.
Exactly.
As touching what is going on. Just recently, the APC said that Onoge was PDP final hope of winning the election. You can see that a lot of political statement has been coming in between. It gives room for a lot of suspicion, because like the lawyer was saying,
but that doesn't mean it's true.
And that doesn't mean it's true.
And that doesn't mean it's false.
Okay,
so until it has been proven,
it is the same thing to say that,
because all of these are allegations.
Listen, the fact that is fine, you are driving home. The fact that there is an allegation against Onoge doesn't mean it's true, because the court have not given the final judgment.
Yes, exactly.
You know, so now if you look at section 292, it's not ambiguous.
Okay, but how does this affect the electoral process? We need to move on.
Let me say this: the average Nigerian, I'm not a politician, are beginning to lose confidence in the electoral process. And if you have been on the news, you notice that a lot of international bodies have been interfering and advising the current government to retrace his step. But rather, the current government is lashing back on them and telling them to mind their own business. Now, when you look at a nation, one of the things I think is happening is there's a lot of disconnect between the government and the people. Because there are times you want to take an action, you have to look at the current atmosphere of the nation. You have to take into cognizance the plight of the average Nigerians. Because for me, my problem has always been the way politicians politicize everything. You know, I see it as a desperation to win an election. For me, that's my own point of view, and I have reasons why I would hold on to that point.
Okay.
Because now, come to look at it, there are some I was listening to the governor of Delta State just yesterday on channels. You know, there are a lot of people talking and beginning to lose confidence and credibility in this government. That seat is one of the few seats. In fact, it is said that in history that the Southerner have never really been there. This is one of the, okay, fine. Beside one, this is one of the few times that they have had the opportunity or privilege to be there. Now, we are not taking cognizance into the fact that there is a lot of mess done in terms of federal.
It isn't the first opportunity, though.
No, it isn't, but one of the few cases. Okay? But what I'm trying to say in essence is we are not even taking cognizance of the fact that in our nation, there's a lot of talk about federal characters. You know, what we keep on seeing is the country towing to one direction. You know, because the constitution is not ambiguous. There is, like what my colleague here said, there is a process. we are not supporting corruption. There is no say in Nigeria that will give credibility to a corrupt heart. Because another thing that bothers me is, how did he get those money? Exactly. There is a lot of corruption in the bench. And those corruption, I can tell you, are perpetrated by the so-called politicians. I was listening to Robert Clark a few days ago on channels. He said, as a lawyer, a major sitting governor told me, our problem is not how to settle you, but how to settle the judges. We don't care about the lawyers, but how do we settle them? Where did that money come from?
Okay, but remember that even the
history.
president, why he even came from vacation from London some months back, even made it clear that his biggest headache is the judiciary. This could be from where you are emanating this.
Sir, the problem is insensitivity. It's a problem of insensitivity and disconnect.
Yeah, because you just made it clear that corruption is still in the
There is nobody that will support corruption. If Onoge is guilty of the crime, then he should go in for it. But the fact that somebody is being alleged does not mean he has been convicted. So what we are saying is that there is due process. And one of my biggest problems is we have a government that don't listen. I mean, without apology, we have a government that has disconnected from the voice of the ordinary people.
Well, that's your opinion. That's your opinion.
No, it's my opinion.
That's your opinion.
It's the fact, sir. It's the truth. We're only trying to be economical with the truth. What is happening currently now is everybody's afraid.
Okay, let's look at the 2019 election proper. Because we are looking at how everyone will be carried along, ensuring that confidence is raised in terms of the electoral process. Now, there's this big challenge about the internally displaced persons. Now, some days back, the INEC leadership was saying that those who are internally displaced, who reside outside, who is taking refuge outside their state of origin, will only be allowed to vote in the presidential election. While those who are taking refuge in their state of origin, but in camps, will be allowed to vote in all elections. And look at the huge number of the internally displaced persons in the country, which builds up over 900,000, running to 1 million.
Yeah.
And some also argue that this could be a way of some leadership or some group or some government subjugating the internally displaced persons to win votes. In all of this, what's your reaction about that?
What do you say when there is a situation we know that the electoral umpire can handle? Now, what I mean is, why deny people the right to vote in all the elections when you know it is something you can coordinate? You know, and I'm also aware there is an international body that have also reacted to that.
But there are logistic reasons that could be amounted to that.
See, the trouble is this. Our political class are very insincere. Apart from the fact that we're talking about the IDPs. Now, look at the issue of Amina Zakari. Okay, now you need to look at a number of issues that has been happening over time. Now I'm trying to show you why the average Nigerian have lost confidence in the electoral processes.
That's your opinion.
Because there are proofs, there are reasons. People don't just assume things. It is as a result of the trend of events. What is happening? Okay, because even though they say there are logistics problems, but what do you say about problem of a region of high risk? The current electoral umpire are still saying they are going to conduct election, even in areas that have high risk. I mean, security issues. So don't talk of IDPs. That basically you don't need much to conduct an election.
Yeah, because even presently reports have it that even some NYC corps members are rejecting posting.
Fine.
Like in Imo State, for instance, where there are issues of flashpoints.
Let me make this critical statement.
Yes.
You know, one time President of the Americans said, when tyranny is in view, people discard that they are fighting crimes. You know, for me personally, it may be my own opinion, but what we have seen over the years, if you take the sequence of events of this government for the past 3 years, is dictatorial and tyrannical.
Let me pause you there. Back to you, Nebula Bakado. He made a mention of issues about the aspect like we brought about the issues of the internally displaced persons. Do you believe that, or do you have this opinion that the IDPs could be subjugated to winning votes for a particular party?
You see,
bearing in mind the VPS, the voting point settlements.
The issue of the electoral process is guided by a legal framework, which we refer to as the Electoral Act, and INEC is to make guidelines for election, in working in conjunction with security agencies. So INEC can even order the law, postpone election in certain areas if that area is going to constitute security risk.
Okay,
to
so
both INEC officials and to the people in question. So if INEC is now looking at this matter very critically, in line with the law, because I know they have a very strong and robust legal department, and they feel that the process of conducting 2019 election, certain decisions have to be taken that may affect an area or some internally displaced persons. I feel that they are acting within the covers of the law.
okay,
If
so
they are not acting within the covers of the law, members of the civil society that are supposed to serve as advocacy and watchdog over government should immediately institute a legal case against them in court so that they can correct the anomaly that they're about to put in place.
okay, thank you. As we round off, Maluko.
Well, like you said, yes, IDPs is squarely within the confines of what the INEC would seem to do, but building the confidence of the electorate in the electoral process is zero, completely zero. From all the processes that have been happening in the years, the sending of the amendment bill to the president, the drama, sending back 4 times. I've had cause to sit down here and discuss this matter. It shows that the government simply wants to put, you see, the issues like the card reader, which we know is a fantastic idea. And from 2015 elections, we have said, just give it a legal basis. Put it into the Electoral Act so that this will cut out many of the fake card and all those things. You, the federal government, that is supposed to aid this process, you have refused to bring such thing. It kills the confidence in the system. It kills the confidence. I mean, as Zacharias only says, it's even a minor one compared to the issue of amending the Electoral Act.
I don't want you to end this way.
The government on their own have assisted in killing the confidence
How do we come out
of
from this?
Nigerians
How do we come out from
in the
this?
electoral process.
You shouldn't end negatively. How do we come out from this?
The government should change its attitude. They should be more positive. But I doubt if there's time enough to do that.
Yeah, way forward.
I think Nigerians should rise up and redeem their own nation. For me, it is time for us to stop this fear game.
And that's what Nigerians are doing. They are using their privacy to rise up.
Yes. There are also a lot of
nation.
Nigerians that are afraid to go vote.
The people that we count
As I talk to you right now,
directly.
because of the incidents that have been happening in this nation. You know, there are a lot of Nigerians that don't have confidence. They are afraid. But this nation belongs to all of us. If this nation must be redeemed from the hands of political vampires, the ordinary electorate must play their critical role. So
Thank you, Sergey Godson. Thank you, Nebula Bakedo.
Thank you for
Many
having
thanks, David Maluko.
Thank you.
Well, a lot has been said, but that still remains that we have just barely 18 days to the presidential election. And being that as it is, we're wrapping our heads around this whole sensitive issue and ensuring that we have free, fair polls, raising confidence in the electoral process.